Hello, everybody. This is Jan Moray, and welcome to this week's edition of Greet the Week. I also have our co-host on here, Mona Duncan, and we have.
I'm on here.
There she is.
I'm on here by phone as we are traveling, and I'm having a glitch with the Wi-Fi coming in here.
Yeah, so we're just going to be listening, hearing Mona today, and then we also have a couple of guests on, and so those are the other people you see on the screen here. So the topic for this week is well, what did you say? I just have what's this, but you had another name for the topic, Mona.
Well, it's just what, it's the fact that we know more than we know we know.
That's right, we know.
And it's learning to listen to our body, tell us when we're tired and when we're need to express what we need and find out what our needs are and how to meet them in a way that is good for all.
All right. So you want me to show that little teaser that you put?
Yes. Okay. Cambridge University has written out this little teaser, I have it written here, and it says, according to researchers at Cambridge University, it doesn't matter in what order the letters in a word are. The only important thing is that some of the letters are in the right place. Now, can you read the rest of that sentence on your own, or the rest of that paragraph?
I can.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
The rest can be a total mess, and you can still get the message. So I wanted us to look today at how, in this wonderful world that we live in, we have this internal radar system, lots of them put together and working together, and for the good of the whole. And we learn more than we know we learn. We see more than we know we see through our senses and so forth. And then human beings, being human beings, just like all of nature, we abhor a void. And so we will fill in the gaps. And sometimes the gaps we fill in on the information we have, or thinking that we understand where someone's coming from, or reading their actions or attitudes, can be way off base. And so it's looking at what we do know, what we don't know, and using our words so that we can communicate better and have healthier relationships all across the board.
Yeah, I mean, that is something. I remember reading this several years ago, what you just posted, something similar to that. And it's really amazing how you can make out the words. You know exactly what it says just by having the correct letters there, even though they're not in the right place. I guess that's why we don't always catch our misspellings, because sometimes we just transfer letters and we don't really realize what's going on. But we do. We fill in the gaps because we want to have it complete. We don't like having it just partially done. We want to finish the picture.
Yeah, and sometimes what we fill it in with is worse than what's really there. And so I work with some students teaching life skills at a couple of community colleges and helping them learn better, to really make good grades and so forth. And not only do I use this, but there's another one that I use where you scroll down, and not only does it have letters, it also has numbers in it. And you can still read it. It may take a minute or two, but you begin to read it.
So and so, numbers like 1 for I and 3 for E and that kind of thing?
Right, and 7 even for a T, because your mind will fill in what isn't there. And we've talked before in looking at our senses, which is how all of the information comes into our brain and into our bodies through our senses, and that although with all of our expanding knowledge, that expanding knowledge is because we're taking everything apart and seeing how it works so intricately. So it's now looking at, we have many, many more senses than the 5 that was the in thing several years ago, that it's really the same sense, just used in a different direction. For example, one of the, and I don't remember the name of it, but suppose that you're sitting at a table and you have an itch on your foot. And so you automatically just reach down with your hand and scratch the itch. You know, you don't have to look to see, or you don't have to speak any words to incorporate your hand, because we know where our foot's located, and, you know, we have that radar that just automatically goes there. But it's also looking at how when we fill in the information that we think we know, we sometimes damage or we get an incomplete picture.
Right. We're making assumptions.
Right. So maybe if you could imagine in your mind a picture of a big blue ball, as in a picture of the world from outer space, you know, what the astronauts took from the moon to see what planet Earth looks like. And as we look at that, looking at Dr. Glasser, William Glasser, the founder of reality therapy and choice theory, the world, you know, what is the world? It's a mighty big place. And we're always talking about the real world, but what is the real world? What comprises the real world? How do we know what's real and what isn't real? What's a figment of our imagination? And so Dr. Glasser says that the real world is people, places, and things that currently are or ever have been, whether we're learning about it from history or from present knowledge. And so then that real world, because we are individuals and we're very unique and special, and whenever we come into this real world as infants and continue to grow to whatever age we are blessed to be on planet Earth, we are living in the real world, but there's no way that we can see all that there is to see, know all there is to know, learn all there is to learn. And so everything we are looking at is through our perception.
Right.
And what is perception?
Yeah, I've read things and then quoted it later or tried to retell the story, and then decided to go back to find it so I could show this person what I was saying. And I go back and read it again. It's like, oh, that's not the way I remembered that I had read it. But I guess at the time I needed it to say something else, and then later when I check on it, it's something very different.
So our perception then is the way we see something in the moment.
Yeah.
And we then, because that's how we see it in the moment, and what seeing it in the moment is based on what our needs are in the moment and our understanding of it in the moment. But if we can give a little space and go back and reread or see the movie again, or, rethink, we may see that there was nuances there that we didn't pick up on the first time. And how can that, it was there, and our eyes were reading it, and, we were absorbing it, but we just didn't have a complete picture. And the more that we can complete the picture, the more we can understand where the author's coming from, where the movie's coming from.
Of course, sometimes we don't want to understand that. We don't want to hear their message.
So then what do we do?
Maybe we'll stop reading.
We'll stop reading. We'll stop trying to communicate. We'll stop working. Do we just give up?
Yeah.
Yeah. But yet, is there something deep down inside? Even when you give up for a while, is there something deep down inside that comes back again and again and says, quit giving up, do it again, try again? Because we all have gifts and talents, and we all have infinite worth and value, and we all have things to offer this world. But often because what we see and do is not, well, I like a story that Irma Bombeck had one time about, she looked at her house and she says, oh, everything looks good, but you know what, I think it would look a little bit better if I made some fresh pillows to put on the couch. That would just add some color. And so she added color. And then she looked around and she said, oh, you know, those curtains are kind of, you know, maybe if I just put up some new curtains, it would really add color and really be different. And so then that led to, oh, I don't like the paint, and painting the wall. And that led to other changes and other changes and other changes. And then she stood back and looked and admired her handiwork and how everything had fit together. And she said, you know what, this is really, really nice, except for those dingy little pillows that's over there on the couch.
Oh, so after a while, those pillows didn't look so colorful and bright like they were when she first bought them.
Right, first bought them, first made them. And so it's looking at that we have this internal radar that is always leading us, driving us. Matter of fact, Marilyn Vos-Savant says that we have a magnet in our nose.
Huh.
But because we use, you know, colognes and makeups, and we're around things that we're not even aware of the fact that that magnet is there, and we distort it. That we have all of these internal guiding systems. I mean, we know when we're hungry, or our body will tell us when we're tired. And sometimes we just need to stop and ask our body, what is it you need?
Yeah, because it knows what you need, but we don't always listen.
Don't always listen. Dr. Philip Brand says that he shocks his cancer patients when he asks them, why do you need this disease?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Because cancer is one of the things that's the body turning on itself. And he shocks them, you know, or they're shocked. What do you mean I need this disease? Nobody needs this disease, and that's true. And he says it starts out by stress. And stress being stress, or the body, which is a machine, and it follows the mechanics of machines, the body will begin to break down at that weakest link. And that weakest link, you know, starts off just with stress. So we don't pay attention to it. We don't give ourselves the rest, the proper nutrients, until it's yelling and screaming, and then we go and sometimes find out that it's way severe. Hopefully it can always be caught in time and have some constructive work done to get things back in order. But it's just listening to our body as to when we're hungry, as to when we're full, as to when we're tired, as to when we have a need that's not being met, and then kind of figure out what that need is and use our words so that we can cooperate with others.
Yeah, sometimes we're not listening to our body because we're doing what we think is right. And we don't have all the information that we need. And, you know, what comes to mind for me is, you know, the things that we eat. You know, we've got, I mean, because I have changed my diet drastically. It's been almost a year now, and I can see some really great changes in my health, improvements in my health. But I've gone against what most of the conventional knowledge is. You know, like you need a lot of protein and don't eat carbs because carbs are bad. And so I've swapped everything out. I'm eating a lot of carbs these days and feeling the best I've ever felt. And so, and I can remember years ago when my sister had gone on the Atkins diet. This is when Atkins first came out and had quit eating carbs, and she was just irritable. So hard to get along with. And so her body was trying to tell her something, but she's going, no, I've got this, I'm trying to lose weight. I'm trying to, because she was a dancer and she had to be real thin. And so we're listening to all the noise that's going on around us, that we don't take the time to really find out what we need to do and what is the best for us.
Right. And it's okay to consult with others and to learn whenever our relationships, whenever our work situations, when we think we're doing the best we can, and it turns out to not be all that effective, it's okay to do a little research and to change our mind, and therefore change our life.
Yeah. And
that
this is kind of changing the subject a little bit, and I apologize for doing that. But when I saw your little blurb that you wrote, with all the letters scrambled in there, it reminded me of this art class that I took, and I'm no artist, but I've always wanted to be an artist, and it's called drawing from the right side of your brain. I don't know if anybody's familiar with that. And so what they have you do is they give you this picture that you're supposed to go. It's like of a vase, but it's one of those pictures that could be a vase or it could be two heads, just depending on the way you look at it. And so you start with drawing with your non-dominant hand, and when you follow with your non-dominant hand, you're able to follow the lines. But when you use your dominant hand, it fights you because it's seeing something else, and it's trying to draw a face or something else. And so it's hard to stay on the line, and until you experience that. I mean, that was just the weirdest thing. It's like my hand and my brain were fighting each other, and this thing, my brain is trying to fill in what it thinks it knows. And I think that's just the point that what you were saying, at the beginning, is that our brains are so powerful, and they try to fill in things that we don't even know are there necessarily.
Yes, and the fact that whenever we're going with what we think we know, that sometimes we really need to listen to that because it's telling us something important. And sometimes we are overriding the system that wants to work for us to keep us alive.
Uh-huh.
And as we can integrate, as we can talk to the left and the right, as we can realize that sometimes it's both and instead of either or. I was, surely, okay, so put your hands together already. Put your fingers together and hold your hands like there is a ball.
Okay.
And then twiddle your thumbs. Leave your other four fingers, the tips of the fingers are touching each other, and you've got an empty ball in the middle there. Now, twiddle your thumbs. Twiddle them first toward you, and then twiddle them backwards. Okay? Now, take your thumbs point to point and put them together, and go with your forefinger and twiddle it forward and backward, leaving the other fingers just like sentinels together. Is that a little bit more awkward than the thumbs being twiddled?
It is for me.
Yeah. Okay. Now take the middle fingers and hold the others together, just point to point. Take those middle fingers and twiddle them, first toward you and then backward.
Extremely difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Harder.
Is that strain harder still?
Yeah.
Yes.
Now go over to the ring finger. And is it kind of like you're drawing? Is it fighting you?
It won't go round and round. It just goes back. Mine only wants to go back and forth.
Yeah. And now the little finger, the same thing. And with just a little bit of practice, it becomes okay. It becomes as easy as twiddling the thumbs, because I guess twiddling the thumbs is something we kind of do naturally. And as we learn to listen to what our body is telling us, I mean, it's good, you know, it makes it agile all the way around, so that we're integrating our left and our right, so that we don't fight against ourselves, so that when the shadow side is showing itself, because we need to speak up, we haven't ignored it to the point that it becomes explosive. Because there's deep down inside, you know, we know more than we give ourselves credit for knowing. And we wait until it's just bursting at the seams, until, and that can go with creative, that can go with being an artist, but having said no to it for years and years and years, and then realizing that maybe if I begin to see things from a different perspective, that Cuba stuff, just because it's not a Rembrandt, it still is effective and meaningful, and it's expressing who I am.
So how do we find out that we are stuck? I mean, how do we know that? Or that we should be doing something different, or look at something differently.
Right.
I guess our body
yes.
does that, and how does that do that?
Well, sometimes it just rebels and gets sick and gets angry and just closes down. And we place blame somewhere else, rather than realizing that I'm not listening to what my wisdom heart is telling me. That, or just to try something different. You know? Just to spark that. Like, it's a little bit awkward to twirl those other 4 fingers as opposed to twirling the thumb. And so it may be a little bit awkward to shift directions. Yeah. But to develop a willingness to do that. To seek for an adventure in life that may work a little bit better. As we recognize and we redirect, then we're in position for new behavior. Because we stay where we are due to the feedback we receive. And if the feedback we receive is more positive, then we have a tendency to, you know, keep going in that direction. If it's more negative, we have a tendency to avert it. Because our bodies are feedback systems.
So, but what if we think that the direction we're going is the one that we want to go in, and that is the one is right? Our body could be fighting us at first, or could it?
Well, it could, but just continually be aware of the feedback.
Yeah.
And if the feedback becomes more and more difficult, it may be time to rethink. And it's not necessarily that you're going in the wrong direction, it's just that you need some different tools. Because it can be difficult to climb mountains, can it not?
Yeah.
Are you still suffering from climbing mountains?
I am, and that's what I'm thinking of right here. I'm still, for those who probably don't know, about a month ago, my husband and I went to Peru, and we did the Inca Trail to Machu Picchu, and I had every bit of adrenaline going to get me to finish that, to go up those hills and then down those hills and stuff, and And my body has been rebelling since I got back. I've had a cold that I just can't shake. And I'm pretty sure it's allergies of some sort, but I can't figure out what is causing it, and trying to do all kinds of things. And so Mona, help me. What am I missing?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, sometimes it's listening that whenever we exert too much, sometimes it's listening to our body whenever we're not exerting enough, and we can get mixed messages. Just like if we had watched two people interact and, we think we know where they're coming from, we can't. There's just no way we can know. But we will fill in the gaps. We will fill in the gaps because we don't want, and we will fill in something. And then it's looking at the feedback. Am I healing? Am I getting better? Am I progressing more? Is it, or is the feedback I'm getting the fact that I need new tools, or that I need to take it a little slower or speed it up a little bit? I don't have the answer.
You don't.
All I have is more questions, more insights, more to think about.
I was hoping you could help me here. I've tried. Well, at first I was like being real, resting a lot and not exerting myself. I said, well, my body needs to rest because I didn't get a lot of sleep and stuff. And so I did that at first, and then it wasn't getting any better. So I thought, oh, maybe I need to go outside and sweat a little bit, because getting hot and doing exercise will kind of release the toxins, right? To get rid of stuff, and maybe that'll help. And I don't know if that helped or not, but I still get the same amount of rest at night, and I still exercise, and I'm still doing everything else, and but I'm trying to take care of myself, and it still won't go away.
Yeah. Well,
I need to be creative. I need to think outside the box. Have something else that's going. I even tried to take gluten out of my diet. Say, well, maybe it's gluten.
Right. What's the current fad? Huh? No gluten, no glue in there.
What's the thing? So I know it's somewhere, right, Mona? I just have to figure out what it is, and just keep trying. Never give up.
Never give up. And I think I've been all over the board today, but hopefully there's been a little bit of something in there. It's looking for an answer, but realizing even whenever we find what we think is the answer, live in the mystery, because if we bite into that and just clutch onto it, rather than looking at all the other nuances that could come in and add to that or take away from that, we can become rigid in what we were trying to not be rigid about.
Yeah.
It's living in the mystery and being aware of the feedback, and that we are part of the feedback by where we are going, what we are doing, how we are seeing things. We're part of that information system that's going through our body, mentally, emotionally, physically, food-wise, physically. I mean, physically, what we're drinking, what we're eating, what we're doing. And our body is always talking to us, and it deserves to be heard.
We may not understand what it's telling us at the time, but we keep trying and keep moving forward. So.
Yeah. Well, even though I can't see you, it's good to know that Rosemary and Emerson and John was with us, and it's nice talking with you.
That was Jim.
Jen.
Charlotte has also joined in. So.
Oh, okay.
So thank you, everybody, for joining. And
Thank you.
And we will be here again next week, same time.
Can I make a comment?
Yes. Well, hang on just a second.